Hi, my name is AudreyGale and I do art. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how to paint a pet portrait in simple terms. To give you a little bit of background on me as an artist, I have been drawing and painting pets for over 10 years now. I first started while I was in college and just doing pet portrait commissions here and there for friends and family, and over the last 10 years, I have drawn hundreds of dogs, sold them all over the US. Now I still do those, and I teach others how to paint portraits. A few examples from my portfolio include this, and my latest painting is one I did of my own cat, Franny. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I created this painting, kind of using simple painting concepts that I teach to my students. For the last few months, I've been hosting Paint Your Pet parties where my students send me a photo of their pet. I draw out the pet's outline on canvas, and then the student fills the portrait with paint at the party using my instructions. So let's get into the video.
So I always start with the nose. I always teach my students to start with the darkest color in that section and to lighten it up slowly until you get to the lightest part of that section. This might not be the best method, especially for lighter animals. So in that case, I tell students to kind of figure out what the main color is for that section. For Franny's nose and kind of the start of her mouth and chin, that's going to be white. When you're putting on that base layer of that main color, it doesn't have to be detailed. You can just kind of slap it on there. So I'm doing the same thing here, where I'm finding the main color of Franny's left cheek to be orange, and I'm slapping that down. Once you get that main color down, you can then go back to extra colors, like how there's orange on top of her chin. And then there's kind of this darker area where her hairs stand out. You kind of want to keep in mind what color is the farthest away from you and what color is the closest to you. What's in between? I want my students to really be staring down the reference photo and figuring out, okay, well, for example, Franny's left cheek is really orange, but towards her nose it gets a little bit darker where there's more shading, and then there it curves up to her nose. I want them to be looking at the darker areas where the whiskers come out, and noticing that that is darker than some of the lighter spots on her cheeks. So here's a really good example of me laying down just a base color to really map out, okay, this is the main color of Franny's side face, ear, forehead, eyes. This is going to be the dominant color for this portrait. I'm kind of just putting this color down in the direction of where Franny's hair goes. Throughout the portrait, you always want to be going in the direction of the pet's hair. That's what's really going to make this look realistic or not. Students often struggle when their pet is black or really dark because it just seems like it's all one color. But the truth is that it's really a full spectrum of color between black and white and all the grays in between. This is where the reference photo is really going to come in handy. There are some areas that are going to be pure black, but most of it is going to be some sort of variation of gray. The more light that's hitting that black, the whiter and lighter it becomes. Here you can see me brush in a lot of detail with fur right on top of that black. Usually I do wet to wet painting, meaning that I put wet paint on wet paint. I like this because it's a lot easier to blend and get the exact shade that you want. Probably the most important concept to grasp when painting or drawing is to draw or paint what you see, not what you think you see. Even though it might not even make sense in your brain, if you simply just paint what you're seeing in front of you, it will end up looking like the thing you're trying to paint. On Franny's chest, we're going to follow that same concept that we were doing earlier. We're applying just a main base coat to her chest of white because that is the most dominant color in this section. Again, we're painting sort of in the direction of the fur, but not giving much detail to it. In any pet portrait, no section should really just be plain white. You're going to have some variations of light grays, even darker grays, to denote fur and shadows. While that white paint is still wet, I'm just going over it with a medium gray, and I'm even applying more white to it in the direction of the fur to get the blend of colors that I want. Ears can be kind of tricky for a lot of people, but this is going to be a good practice of truly painting what you see, because the brain can't even quite make out what you're looking at. I just know there's some curves, there's some lines, and there's some hairs. So I'm drawing it just as I see in that reference photo. For the ears, I'm recognizing that gray and maybe a little bit of pink is the main color of the background. And then the hairs that come in front of that ear are closer to me, closer to the viewer of the painting. So I'm gonna layer that on top of that gray pink color. Here we're gonna lay down another orange base for one of her spots. Here I recognize in the reference photo that there are some darker orange lines that go through those spots. So I'm just putting those in now with kind of like an orangey brown color. There's also some black and white furs that kind of layer over those sections, so that's what I'm adding now. Recognizing that the black and white hairs are in front of the orange spots. Franny's eyes have this greenish yellow color, which I'm going to be filling the base of now. She's kind of got a darker green when you go towards the pupil, so that's what I'm adding. As that darker green goes towards the pupil, it's kind of blending into that lighter green color. So that's what I'm trying to do with these two colors using the wet paint to wet paint method. I've noticed some lighter white areas around her eyes and under her eye where it kind of caves in towards it, so I've added that. And on this eye, we're doing the same thing where I'm blending that kind of darker hunter green into this lighter yellow-green color. There's a bit of orange fur here in this section, so I'm just adding some fur strokes here along with some black and white fur strokes to kind of mix it in together so it doesn't look so stark. Now that the eyes are dry, I'm going to move back in here and add some white highlights. Eyes are never completed until there are white highlights. That's what actually makes it look like an eye. And I always use a gel pen for the whiskers and sometimes the highlights of the eyes too. It's just a lot thinner and easier to use than paint. So here is the final look of Franny's pet portrait.
So this is Franny, and this is her portrait. Not bad, huh girl? Thank you for watching this video about my painting tips on how to paint your pet and how to paint pet portraits for others. I hope that this helped you. I hope that you picked up some pointers. I hope that this made it just simpler to understand concepts of painting. If you're in the Middle Tennessee area, I do host paint parties regularly, so check out my Instagram or my website where you can find more information about how to become a student. I make videos every week about art markets, art tutorials, murals, paint parties, all sorts of stuff. So if you're into that sort of thing, please subscribe. And thanks for watching. Bye.